Hello and welcome to another video and podcast from Fantasy Football Scout. Today it's all about Sky Sports Fantasy Football with £50,000 up for grabs for the winner. My name's Joe and joining me is Luke. Luke, how are you?
I'm good, Joe. Thank you. Pleased to get this game week one out of the way. I've been pretty upset by my score. I think much like you in the
Yeah,
first week. Spent a lot of time, obviously, trying to work out, the best 11 I could get for overhaul, and there's been a few successes, but really it's been a story about having a couple of players. I think
yeah.
in Salah and Vardy as your captains. If you've had those two, you probably got off to a
Yeah,
flyer, and I didn't have either. So, not the ideal start, but obviously we are only 1 week in, so
I
long way
know.
to go.
And I think we were going, I think like you, I mean, I'd sort of forgotten about Salah in Sky because Van
Mm,
Dijk and the defenders have been such good value, even when they don't get a clean sheet, as we saw with Van Dijk a goal. That I thought, well, I've got a captaincy when I need one for Liverpool. Why bother with Salah? But then he goes and gets, what was it, 40 points, 40 something points for those that captain him.
I think it's 23 points, was it?
Yeah,
So yeah, 46 or something.
46
I
points.
mean,
That's why.
yeah. I mean, again, it kind of worked in the fact that if you'd have captained Van Dijk, who went and scored, then it wouldn't have been too bad usually. But obviously, I mean, the ceiling for a player like Salah is so high, and it just so happened you got that monster haul. I mean, when you look at the whole again, when we come back to when the overhaul is finished, and we look at the games as a four, Salah's obviously going to be ahead of these guys now after that hat trick.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible for them not to be, but hopefully the gap won't be that big. But when you couple it with that hat trick and a captain, it's that's the beauty of Sky. If you can hit those major hauls,
Yeah.
you can make massive
Well,
moves.
that's it. I mean, and Vardy as well.
Mm,
We're not going to talk about our B teams as much, but they may become our A teams after overall.
yeah,
But my B team did much better, and because for one reason had Vardy. Didn't have Salah, but just had Vardy. So nice 28-point haul. While most other teams, including my A team, my main team, Kane captaincy, which did not go very well at all.
mm,
Let's have a look. So what we're going to do here, we're going to just have a quick look at how we've done in game week one. We'll look ahead to game week two, answer your questions. We'll pick out anything particularly eye-catching in the stats, bonus allocation, and a lot of those issues will be addressed in your questions as well. And so first of all, we'll have a look at our team, see what state they're in. So here's your one. You've got McCarthy, Robertson, Vinagre, Justin, Ward-Prowse. I went for Ward-Prowse as well. Antonio, Pulisic, whose flags he did not play. Fernandez. So you did keep Fernandez. So I opted
mm,
just to go Fernandez less.
yeah,
Possibly a blunder, but Kane, Aubameyang, and Werner up front. So looking at that, you've already mentioned the players you don't have, Vardy and Salah there. That
mm,
was game week one. Hopefully our other alternatives will do better in game week two. But I guess the main issues there are Vanagra and Pulisic, as in, I mean, they can't score because they're not on the pitch. So what are you going to do
yeah.
with them?
Thanks.
Are you going to use precious transfers, or are you just going to try and sail through with 9 or 10 players?
Yeah, it's a very tricky question to answer. I mean, that team that I had 8 players this week, so it's no surprise that I only got 50 points, which is a terrible, terrible start, really. Only 8 out of my 11 played. Obviously, I knew Fernandez wouldn't play, so I was already on 10. Pulisic, I knew was a doubt. I just thought over the four, if he gets 20 minutes in this game, which is what most people thought he might get, then I'll take that 3 games in 20 minutes, because such is his potential. Turns out that was probably a mistake because he's now doubtful for the next one, which is
Yeah.
I mean, trusting a player. I mean, I just really wanted him. I think I was blinded. I've made an error basically to pick a player who is not fully back from injury, and I should have just ignored it. I really wanted him. I actually had James Rodriguez in this position. We talked about him on the last
Yeah.
pod, but because I wasn't sure that he was going to play, quite a lot of the noise was he wasn't probably going to start. So I thought, I'm not going to take a risk of someone not starting. I took James Rodriguez out, who ended up looking fantastic for Everton. I don't think he scored that many points, but he did look very, very good. And then went for Pulisic, who didn't even play in the end. So that was an error. Likewise with Vinagre, I just felt like of all the budget enablers, the noise coming from Nuno was that this Marcel guy was going to take time to integrate into the squad. He can play a couple of positions. He was like a brand new signing.
Yeah.
It's not really his style to throw these guys in. So I just thought it's worth the risk at that cheap price. And I saw obviously Saliba was going to be my other one. When Arsenal team sheet came out, he wasn't starting. So I thought, right, I know that now. I can chance the Vinagre thing. So that didn't work out either. I mean, there's a slither of hope, I guess, that he does play and it was a fitness thing because Ruben Neves didn't play. And a lot of these teams from game week 1 aren't their first team. I mean, you look at Chelsea, etc. That's highly unlikely to be their first team. There's people coming up to speed. So there's maybe a slight thing in the back of my mind saying he could come in, but it's probably hopeful. And therefore I've got issues. And yeah, in terms of transfers, I suppose the mistake has now been made. I think then the mistake sometimes is to think, right, well, I've got to swap these guys out. I mean, right now, they've only got 3 games if they start, these guys. So I could swap Pulisic for someone who plays 3 games. Now, if Pulisic plays 1 or 2, suddenly I've only gained 1 or 2 games over that person when I bring that other guy in. So unless he's going to be my captain, you could debate as to whether that's really worth it. I mean, if you could tell me Pulisic won't play at all for these whole next 3 weeks, then I'd make the swap because I think 3 games is worth a transfer probably in most scenarios. But if he's out for the Liverpool game, then he's going to play the 2 games after that. I'm only getting a 3 for 2 for 1 transfer. So in my mind, that's not really worth it. And I may as well just leave him in because we'll get better opportunities later. And when it comes to the likes of Vinagre, it's a similar thing, especially with a player like that, because most of the people I swapped to around that price, you would expect won't be worth the swap. No. So I might just take this on the chin. I'll have to listen to the noise. If Vinagre's looking like he's never going to play, Pulisic is going to be out for a while, which I doubt I'll get confirmation, then maybe I'll just do a double swap and get it done and get, potentially 6 games, 3 each, before I overhaul it, whoever I bring in. But I think I just have to chalk it down to an error, I think, and just hope at this moment. That's my plan. And just going through my team in general, Justin was one of the best budget enablers, I felt. He ended up playing left back, which wasn't ideal for his attacking output.
You spoke about him last week as being, potentially to benefit from the change in rules, the tackle bonus. But in general, he was getting bonus, and a good move, I think.
Yeah, I think he's looking decent. Attacking potential slightly dampened being on the left, although he did actually get an assist in this game, didn't he? Which was a surprise, really. Robertson looked fantastic. More than happy with that. Looked great. I mean, obviously the Van Dijk thing, I think it would have been close again. And I actually said, funnily enough, from game one, remember, unless Van Dijk pops up with a goal, I expect Robertson to maybe beat him. And there he is with his goal, as is customary on game week 1. So a little bit unlucky there, but I was quite happy with that. Antonio was always expected to be a 2-pointer or a massive haul for me. That's what you're buying into when you buy these midfielders that are strikers. They don't often get bonus or anything, so that's why I kind of only went for one of those type of players. You could argue Pulisic is, but he usually gets shots and stuff when he plays, so that was sort of calculated, I guess. And then Ward-Prowse, he was the one as well that I wasn't sure on. It could have been a defender instead. He actually did okay for bonus tackles. He was one of these people who was looked likely to benefit from the new rule. He's obviously potentially on penalties or at least sharing them with Ings. Has got that assist potential for corners, free kicks, everything. So yeah, he got 2 points, but I'm not too worried about that. I feel like that was just a day off, a bad day at the office, I should say, for Southampton on that game. So the front line was where it really happened. I mean, Aubameyang captain did okay, and then it's the whole Vardy and Salah thing. I've got Werner and Kane, and had the wrong captains. Kane was probably the biggest disappointment for me for the week. I don't know about you, especially when you had Vardy.
Yeah, but I mean, there was a moment where there was a Son pass to him, and he was really close to scoring. On another day, he would have definitely scored that. It wasn't for Kane, a hugely tricky shot, just didn't go in. Wasn't his day there. But yeah, he easily could have come away. He could have come away with a goal. He could have come away with some shooting bonus. He could have come away with a much better haul there. So I'm happy to keep him for the time being. Werner's got a flag, but his comment, it seems to be a dead leg and a knock, and his comments were really that he's up for it playing Liverpool. I think I get the impression his leg would actually have to fall off for him to not want to play in a Premier League game against Liverpool. I mean, no offence to my side, Brighton, But he didn't come to the Premier League to play Brighton. He came to play the likes of Liverpool, Mo Salah and Mane, etc. So yeah, I'm happy with him, definitely.
He looked very good, didn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, Chelsea didn't look great, did they, at all? Obviously, they ended up winning 3-1 in the end, so it's hard to criticise him too much. But I feel like the way he was buzzing around the place, his quick little runs, looking to get in behind, sharp sort of shots and turns. I feel like the Liverpool game, I mean, if Chelsea can get their act together, which I suppose is another conversation, but it looks like if Liverpool are going to play some sort of high line, then Werner could eat that up. The way they're defending at the moment, very laps at the back from Liverpool again.
It's almost tailor made for a player like him. So let's hope he is fit. I'm going to put my team up because it's broadly similar. There are some changes. So I got 61. So same ballpark really. Here I went for Ramsdale in the end. In goal, obviously they were rubbish, Sheffield United. But
I feel like you should have made both those saves, don't you, as well? Maybe at least one of them.
Well, yeah, maybe he really is the Bournemouth keeper who is playing for Sheffield United suddenly. But yeah, so I went for him just as a sort of, if I don't go for a City asset, which I still plan to do, but if I don't, I have got that safety of a captaincy on the Monday. Bertrand I went through, thanks to you actually, because we were speaking last week about defensive options, and you were mentioning about Bertrand, you mentioned about the possibility of getting bonus as well, and so it transpired. Tackles, tier 1, plus 2 points. So Bertrand got me 4 points, obviously not absolutely great, but he's only 7.3, he's more of an enabler really. Very happy with that. Van Dijk goal, Doherty I went for. Once again, sort of a backup to Kane. If Kane got injured, but I think Spurs have good fixtures, and I fancied captaining a Spurs asset, I think that's why I went for Doherty, because I thought I've got a sort of backup there. It turns out Kane and Doherty were both rubbish in game week 1. But once again, Doherty almost scored. So I like what I saw there. Kane almost got an assist for a Doherty goal. In fact, Kane almost came away with quite a good, respectable score. Justin, we've already spoken about. Ward-Prowse I went for as well. I had Fraser, I think, in that role. I wasn't sure what to do. I knew I wanted a sort of 7.5-ish midfielder. And I just went for Ward-Prowse. I just thought, well, look, he's captain. He's captain for Southampton. He's going to start. He's on penalties. They've got good fixtures. It's for 4 weeks. Give him a go. So I imagine that's probably similar rationale with you as well. Antonio, we spoke about. Havertz was a bit of a letdown. If he just turns up and gets me 2 points each week, I'm not going to waste a transfer moving him out. I'll just take that on the chin. That was just a bad call. So I might end up with a mediocre final, a rank or final points tally at pre-overhaul. But what the hell? Kane, hopefully, I'll get more out of him. Aubameyang to KDB. I've got Aubameyang and Werner. So I've got a 4-3-3. Kane, Aubameyang, Werner. Werner we're happy with, spoken about. Kane. Aubameyang still going to be transferred out to KDB or Sterling, I think. But I might not. And I might do something like Kane to one of them because I've got Doherty as a backup on Spurs.
Yeah.
So I've given myself some options, but I hope they all stay fit. I hope they all turn up. And I want to desperately get to overhaul with one transfer, and that's going to be a City asset in for someone, probably Aubameyang. So that's me really. So I know it's pointless looking at rank at this time, but I'm 100k, so that's not a great start. But yeah, it's difficult this time because there's going to be people in the top 10 who have spent 10 transfers already, and that's why they're there.
Yeah, I would completely ignore rank at this stage. I mean, Joe, I'd bet a lot of money that you'll finish at least 99k away from that result.
Yeah, well, hopefully, if I don't use the transfers, and also we've got information for post overhaul, and I think that's hopefully where us managers that are used to playing Sky will look at those and look at those players that possibly get the tiers for bonuses. And,
very much so, yeah.
That's the aim really. So in terms of captaincy, I don't know about for you, but for me, I've written down my next lot of captaincies for game week 2. Aubameyang against West Ham, no brainer for me. On Saturday, Kane versus Southampton, give him a go again. Werner against Liverpool, possibly. And then Monday, I'm probably going to get KDB in against Wolves, but I do have that Ramsdale backup, possibly. And then for game week 3, Werner, Kane, KDB, and Van Dijk are the players sort of in the frame for me. So I'm thinking Chelsea, City, Liverpool, Spurs, and they're the only ones I'm really thinking about for game week 3. So we don't know game week 4 yet. They haven't released the days, so hopefully that will fall kindly for us and we can move on. But I don't know about you for captaincy. Any of your particular players that you're relying on, or you're quite happy to ditch?
No, I think it's very much the same as you. So for game week 2, it will be Aubameyang at home to West Ham. I think I will have Bruno Fernandes, as you saw, so he's an option for me. And you could argue a differential maybe, because people might not have started with him as a result of him not having a game. But I just think Aubameyang against West Ham's right back it looks really, really good to me on paper, the way they defend away from home. I mean, Palace could turn up, and I know they're not particularly good away, Palace. They are much, much better at home, but you at least think they will play with everyone behind the ball and try to make it difficult for Man United. Whereas
they're going to frustrate.
Exactly, and I don't think West Ham are even capable of that. So it will be Aubameyang. On Sunday, I've got Kane, but I'm very much on Werner for that one. I think I don't trust Kane in the best of times, let alone away at home against Southampton. They're full of energy.
Yeah,
I think that'll be a tough game for them. I mean, Southampton do leave themselves quite wide open at the back end, so you never know.
Well, they react well to a defeat. Remember last season when they got absolutely hammered 9-0 by Leicester, and thereafter they were a changed, better side. So I mean they they were still. I thought they were still okay against Palace, but they will consider themselves, let themselves down, and on evidence they react well. So I'm okay. I'm okay with Southampton. But I still think Kane could still nick a goal. I still think he's quite good. Yeah, him and Werner.
I mean, we've already seen this week alone that players on penalties can get points from nowhere. I mean, you could argue Vardy was nowhere to be seen in the last game and ended up with 2 penalties.
His expected goals non-penalty 0. So without those 2 penalties, he would have got nothing. Without Salah's 2 penalties, he would have only got a goal. So we'll see.
And what a goal it was, though. To be fair,
what a goal! It was happened to be a worldie, and he did happen to fire in about a zillion shots as well. So at least he had that going for him.
So on that Sunday. I'm sorry, just to finish it off. So on that Sunday, Werner at home to Liverpool, probably. I mean, again, Leicester at home to Burnley. And this is where we had for me, I had the dilemma of, do I go Kane or Vardy? Vardy's obviously run round 1. Now round 2 is looking very much set up for Vardy again, unfortunately. But I won't be bringing him in. So I'm just going to be praying that Burnley can do a Burnley in that game. And then on Monday, it will be Kevin De Bruyne. Next week, I think I've got the exact same captains as you, so I won't repeat it. The likes of De Bruyne and Aubameyang. Aubameyang will be gone. De Bruyne, and I suppose the Monday night game actually is the biggest concern. Monday the 28th. So we've got Fulham at home to Aston Villa. Probably won't have any of their players, and then it's Liverpool at home to Arsenal. So this is the game that I probably will bring Salah in and use 2 transfers for. We've talked about it before. You could look at covering this game with Van Dijk or Robertson, but the way Liverpool are defending and the Arsenal's ability to score, I'm not very confident of a clean sheet in that one. So I feel like I might have to get Salah there. So Kane to Salah at that point, I think is a pretty good move, because Kane will have played on the Sunday at home to Newcastle before. You can then switch him straight to Salah if you've got the money in the bank. Or Mane is, I think, 0.1 cheaper than Kane. So if you can't get up to Salah, you could always go Mane. And then obviously the week afterwards, so week 4, we don't know the fixtures yet, but at least we know the fixtures. Sorry, we don't know the TV dates. Liverpool are away to Aston Villa, which strikes me as a better game than Spurs away to Man United. So Mane or Salah versus Villa is probably better than a Kane versus Man United, I would have thought. So I think that one could be worth it as well. I'm looking to do. You talked about your swaps, about Aubameyang to Kevin De Bruyne, and probably Kane to Mane or Salah for.
That is. I mean, I will be. Right up until I can make that move, if I chose to, I'd be tempted by that. I possibly won't do that because it's a second transfer. But you're right. If it's seizing that opportunity, Kane's fixtures do turn slightly. Salah's go up. Last season, Mane tended to be the one in away games, and Salah was better. Salah at home to the likes of Leeds, great, go for it. But Still, I'd like to see another game of Mane, because I wonder if Mane could be the better bet than Salah.
Yeah, I suppose it's that because the main reason you would do that is to cover the Monday 28th of September game, which is Liverpool at home to Arsenal. So in that game there, I feel like you'd only do that move if you're going to couple it with the armband. And then, as you said,
Yeah,
if you're looking at the armband in a home game, it's probably Salah that you want.
yeah,
I don't think I can even afford Salah without making another switch. So for me, I'd already penciled in Mane because, like you, I kind of prefer him in from general open
yeah.
play. It doesn't often get as many shots, so Salah has got that in his locker as well for the bonus. But yeah, I mean, I'm not writing Mane off after one game. Hell no, he's far too good a player.
Yeah, definitely. I've spoken about Bertrand getting his tackle tiers. Is any was there any other kind of bonus those players hitting the tiers that of note? Do you think for those?
Yeah.
Watching?
I mean, if we just look at tackles first of all, for defenders, I mean, these are the stats we really want to pay attention to because when it comes to after overhaul, we want to, we're going to want all of our heavy hitters, but then you're going to want to have these cheapies, these enablers that go alongside them. And most of the time, if you can get these cheapies that come with the chance of bonus, I mean, you can see this week I got twos all across my team mostly, but if those are suddenly fours, it makes a big, big difference overall, especially over the 38 weeks. So you want to target these guys. So something of note that I thought was quite interesting: Dallas and Ayling both got 7 and 6 tackles each. So 7 for Dallas, 6 for Ayling. So they hit tier 2 tackles in game 1. They're both very, very cheap, 7 and 6.4 million. Now, I think in part here we've got to have to remember they were playing against Liverpool, who have got Mane and Salah on the wings, and therefore, when they're playing against wingers who will at least try to dribble past them, you've got more chance of getting a tackle right. So I don't think it will be as high against all of the teams, but that's very encouraging to me. I mean, it's only 1 week's worth of data, but to think that those cheapy defenders in a team that looked pretty good have already got the potential for tackles locked up, then they're definitely ones to keep an eye on. Walker Peters actually got 6 tackles as well. Again, I think it's a similar story with him, but there is a theme here. It's fullbacks, as we knew. He was playing against the likes of Zaha and people who will at least try to dribble past him all the time. So it's something to look at, I think. If a fullback is up against a player who will try to take them on quite regularly, they've got a very good chance of getting the tackles because it's easier to achieve it now, right? Mitchell was another one who got 6, another cheapie. I don't think he's going to stay in the team, though. So Bertrand, Walker Peters, Ayling, Dallas, all chipped in with tackles. So I like the look of them. A player who just caught the eye general from open play was Lamptey. I don't think anyone will disagree with that who watched the game. I think he was fantastic in that game. He did get 3 tackles, 1 in that game, and obviously was a threat. He got assists. Now, Brighton probably won't keep that many clean sheets, but I think against lesser teams at home, they've got chances. And he's 6 million, so he might end up being probably one of the best enablers because... I mean, with Justin James, we're not sure how long he will actually stay in the team once Pereira's back. I wouldn't have thought he'll be in it. So for a long-term pick, Lamptey at 6 million is looking very, very enticing. I suppose there's the argument that because Brighton are a passing team, but he doesn't often get passes himself, that you could look at the centre-backs for a more assured route.
The fixtures aren't too bad, long-term for Brighton. Once they get this overhaul fixtures out of the way, they're not too bad. There's not too many tough teams they face, but obviously Brighton historically are not very good at keeping clean sheets. But they do have. I think that some of the Chelsea players mentioned about the sheer size of Brighton's defence. They are absolutely huge, and it's something as a Brighton fan, I'm used to seeing basically them rolling out children down at some godforsaken stadium. But now they've actually got like proper giants, Premier League quality giants. So yeah, there could be some clean sheets there. I tell you, I was looking at the man of the match awards, and it's hard to tell, but it gives an indication of what Sky likes. Interestingly, it wasn't James Rodriguez; it was Allen who got the man of the match in the Everton game. Callum Wilson, they love an English striker doing well in this game, so Callum Wilson got the man of the match. Mohamed Salah, obviously. Jimenez. I mean, this is perhaps why. Perhaps I do sort of wish I'd gone for Jimenez because he is really reliable, and you just want to keep with the pack a bit in Sky at the beginning. And he's just going to roll out a goal. If he's going to get a goal, bonus, and man of the match every match, then that'll do me. Reece James that is intriguing at Chelsea, man.
Yeah, very much so.
Obviously, Gabriel got it for the Arsenal game, and the new guy at Leicester, Castagna, got man of the match as well. But yeah, it's these players like, sorry, my smoke alarm's gone off there. It's players like Guita that are interesting because they're they can offer value. They're not very popular because it's just basically the Palace goalkeeper, but then he's down man of the match. So
Yeah, and in midfield there was a few. I thought Højbjerg is another one of these guys we looked at and said we're gonna have to look at his numbers. Now he ended up getting tier 1 tackles and passes in his first game. So yeah, we've only got 1 week of data, and Spurs were at home. Now Højbjerg, I think, got a little bit of stick for his performance. I don't think he was that actual good, but in terms of Sky managers, great. We'll take the bonus and run.
I like that. If that is a bad performance and he does well in Sky, well, if he has a good performance, you might be able to add man of the match to that.
He's definitely one to keep watching because, I mean, Allen got man of the match. That won't happen every week. He got the same amount of tackles, Højbjerg, as Allen, but then Højbjerg also got passes and costs close to $1 million less. So Højbjerg is definitely the standout for me in midfield at the moment. Romeo was very unlucky. I think he got like 59 passes or something. So 1 off of the tier, and he also got 4 tackles, 1. So and Romeo is another one to look out for Southampton. Now that Højbjerg's moved, obviously Romeo looks assured of his place. So he's one to watch out for as well. The likes of Basuma, Ward-Prowse, Souček, all these guys were very, very close to bonus. They either got it or were very close. So again, they're ones to watch out for. I think they could do well there. Calvin Phillips, I think he just caught the eye in general for Leeds as controlling. I mean, we knew he's that kind of ball-playing DM, and he got 2 tackles, and he was not too far off from passes as well. So I think he will pick up tiers moving forward. So yeah, they're the main ones I like. Gabriel, just a shout out to him. I think he got the most passes of all players this week with 100. I think it was. I'm just going to check that. It was something like that. Let me just double check. So we got 106 passes attempted, far and away the most. I know they were playing Fulham, so you can't expect that every week. But if they're going to play in a back 3 most weeks, that suddenly looks enticing. He becomes like a Van Dijk light.
Yeah, it was a monster haul. 2 points incredible. For starting, 7 points for a goal, 5 points clean sheets, man of the match 3, tier 2 passes, another 3 points, 20 points. Yeah, one to monitor. I'm writing that down.
Yeah,
because
when we come to these overhaul, these consistent passing centre backs have proved to be fantastic in the past, and we've had the likes of, we talked about it loads, Van Dijk, Gomez, Laporte. We've had all these guys, and that's why they come with these massive prices when you look at the Sky list of defenders. I mean, Laporte's been injured for about a year and a half, and he's still the 3rd most expensive defender because they know what he can do. So yeah, if any of these in the slightly lower bracket can step up to even vaguely near that, I mean, Arsenal looking a lot better team at the moment. So the likes of Tierney and Gabriel. I mean, Gabriel's 8 million. If he can get anywhere close to, the likes of 10.9, I think. Yeah, 10.9 Van Dijk is. Yeah. So that's a big difference, isn't it? Saving. Yeah, it's 2.9 million.
And this season, there's a lot of FPL managers have joined us over at Sky as well, and are playing the game for the first time. And I think that's a key thing that we talked about there. I mean, we all know about Salah and Jimenez and KDB. We know what they're about. But it's these players like Højbjerg, Romeo, Gabriel. It's these slightly more unfashionable players that you wouldn't perhaps consider in FPL or in Sky can be good, but it's a question of monitoring their stats really, and that can be the real difference between a really good finish at the end of the season and a mediocre one by getting 20 points from the likes of Gabriel and spotting those tiers for Højbjerg. Let's move on to the community questions. So we've probably answered some of these already, but let's go through them. Should we get this is good from Mavarena. Should we get rid of Spurs defence or their attack first? So it's basically get rid of Spurs, but which one first? It's just going to depend on your team, really. And I personally wouldn't consider getting rid of any of them. We spoke about Højbjerg. I got Doherty. He could have scored. Could have got a goal for me. Ali could be a problem. But if he can show up, I'll take that pre-overhaul. So I personally wouldn't move any of them on. unless they're injured. But I don't know about you, Ali in particular, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, Ali's is a concern, but I already spoke at it right at the start. Right now, if you just forget what's already gone on, we're at a stage where every player from a standstill start right now has only got 3 games. So suddenly, if your players, not going to play all 3, you could maybe argue now, possibly, but if they're going to play at least one of these next 3, I would argue the transfer's not worth it unless coupled with a captain's armband. So I won't be removing Kane. I mean, if you asked me if you gave me a swap for free and said you can swap Kane for Vardy for free, I'd probably take it off you. But no, I'd say just leave them, especially the defence, Doherty and stuff. Just leave them in. I think they'll be all right.
Yeah, exactly. Gareth Bale could be joining, by the way. Spurs widely tipped. We'll be intrigued by his price post overhaul, but not one for pre overhaul. Mark Dorney specifically, just a shout out to him. He specifically asked about Ali, so I hope we've answered that question, Mark. Benny Blanco says, "How do I stop myself making stupid transfer mistakes?" And then he says, "Luke knows the story." So what is the story? What is this level of his stupidity?
Right. So on the Monday when we had the Chelsea game, obviously before that we actually had the Sheffield United game. Benny Blanco had a couple of drinks and he forgot that the Villa and Sheffield United game had already been played. Not Villa and Sheffield United. Who was it that played? I can't remember.
Sheffield United and Wolves.
Sheffield United and Wolves. Sorry, Sheffield United and Wolves had already played. So when he saw the Chelsea lineup, he thought he'd make a swap, forgetting that obviously it doesn't work until the beginning. But this is the best bit. He transferred out Pulisic, who he started with because he obviously saw that he wasn't playing for Chelsea. So he took him out, and then he put in Reece James for him. So he was sat watching the game, feeling smug as anything, because Reece James has banged in an assist, a goal. He ended up with man of the match. He was a fantastic performance, only to realise that he didn't get any of his points. And then he's actually probably or possibly made the situation worse because, what if Pulisic now starts against Liverpool and Reece James, he's not necessarily now, might not, or at least now he's playing Liverpool, you wouldn't expect a clean sheet. So
that's a good example of why it's important to keep an eye on the timings of matches, because you make transfers every day. But also, the problem with that is not that; it's what he does afterwards. If he then got rid of Reece James for Pulisic or something like that, that's an error.
You just have to chalk it off. Forget it.
Chalk it off. You've used a transfer. You've got Reece James. Let's hope he does well. He's got West Brom after Liverpool, so could be a shrewd move. FPL Steffa Barnes. Do we use transfers to fix issues pre-overhaul or just wait afterwards and bank transfers? I think we're both on the same wavelength here. 1, maybe 2, but try and save those transfers best as you can.
Yeah, it's a general wait unless you're sat there with a real heavy hitter that you're expecting big points from, and he's just a complete dud. So, I mean, the likes of Pulisic probably just qualify for that, but we haven't had any confirmation he's definitely out. So I'll still be holding in that example. The likes of Kane, who just didn't perform in 1 week. I mean, no, I wouldn't be looking to swap them unless you really, really, really truly believes Kane's not going to get anything in 4 weeks, which, I mean, it could happen, but...
Tala Nadim asks, Sterling or Aguero over KDB for next Monday? So we talked about the Aubameyang to KDB move, but what about Sterling or Aguero? Are you considering them instead of KDB?
I mean, who wouldn't consider them? They're fantastic players, aren't they? I think it's probably best just not to overthink it. Kevin De Bruyne was the highest scorer last time out. He's on penalties. He can get the bonus. So to me, it's just, we talked about trying to stay with the pack to begin with. And De Bruyne is the obvious option. His ownership's crazy as well. But that's not to say that Aguero and Sterling can't easily outperform him. And if anything, I would say get them as well if you want to, rather than instead of. But yeah, I mean, it's Man City, right? Any single one of their players can hit a monster haul any week. And if you can tell me who that's going to be every week, then, give me a DM beforehand, because I don't think there's anyone who can predict it.
It's early days. Rank doesn't matter so much this season. There's no point, deliberately going, I'll try and get a differential. The important thing, I think, pre-overhaul is just stay with the pack as best as you can. Post-overhaul, yeah, sure, go for Aguero or Sterling, perhaps, but just looking at the ownership stats, Kevin De Bruyne 45.49%. That's going to go up as well.
Very much so.
Sterling 13%, Aguero 5%, 4.99 in fact. So yeah, they are differentials there, but we don't really need differentials. You just want players that are going to score you points and then move to overhaul and assess then. Auto Recluse asks, which new signings have stood out for you? So I think we've mentioned there Everton in particular, and Højbjerg is an interesting one, a new signing for Spurs. Obviously we know what he's about with Southampton. But I think Everton in general are the ones I'm looking at. FPL Anonymous also asked what of Allen and the Everton midfield. So yeah, you like Rodriguez, I guess, post overhaul, but
yeah, I mean Rodriguez just oozed class. He didn't end up. I don't know what points he actually ended up on. I'll have to actually check that, but he's definitely in my thoughts. Because he only got 2 points. So again, yeah, he's a midfielder. Which this can happen a lot. He looks the best player on the pitch, but he still ended up with 2 points. So you just had to be wary of that sort of thing. So yeah, I did like him. I mean, Gabriel stands out massively. I mean, he's not going to hit that kind of haul straight away, but Gabriel at 8 million is looking very enticing. Yeah. We also had Castagna from Leicester do well. I'm not sure he can hit those kind of heights, but he's one to watch. And aside from that, Højbjerg definitely was one that looked good. And there was another one in my mind who's completely slipped out of who I was talking about. It was on my list a minute ago, and I've just missed him. It will come back to me. Keep going.
And also go the likes of Romeo and Newcastle. I'm not massively interested in at the moment with Sky, although Callum Wilson is in my thoughts. But it's more I want to see, because they're a bit like Everton. I've got a new look. Attack. Fraser, who was in my draft going into this pre-overhaul period, he scored in the cup. Obviously, not quite the same standards as the league, but he scored in the cup this week. He's going to be a regular fixture. He's 7. I think he was 7.9. I saw, but so yeah, he's one I'm definitely looking at because I think he can really rack up the goals and assists and help out, and he's got man of the match potential in him as well, because he's always caught the eye. I mean, I don't know if any other players have spring to mind.
It was William was the one I was thinking of. Yeah, William. 8.8 million. It's not the best price, but if he's going to put in performances like that, 3 assists. Yeah. He got shots on target as well. He was on set pieces. Suddenly, I mean, Aubameyang's a guy that obviously you kind of want for those armband games when when Arsenal have got them. But you could, for example, put Willian in your team as a sort of set and forget and use him as your captain, and then save the transfers when you want to bring in and out Aubameyang, unless you're looking to keep him season long. So it's just things like that, which you have to look at. Like, as a way to save captains, is there any player that can kind of do a job and cover their main captain? It's a risky business because Aubameyang is the standout captain every single week, but you have to make sacrifices somewhere, and for us, we made the sacrifices of not going with Salah and going with Van Dijk. It punished us, but over the course of the season, might end up being okay. And then Willian might be another one who, if he can get the starts, could look at possibly covering some of Aubameyang's points on those captain days.
Yeah,
risky, but you never know.
Yeah, definitely. Lots to think about. Hopefully, we preach a bit of patience, but nevertheless, sometimes when you got to make a move, you got to make a move. So just before we go, just say thanks everyone for your questions. Quick reminder: the Fantasy Football Scout members area is full of some of the useful stats that we were talking about there, particularly around passing and tackling. So information there for Sky managers and FPL managers alike. Do check out the website for details. But for now, Luke, thanks for joining me, and good luck with the second game week of the Sky season.
Thanks, Joe. I think we'll both very much need that luck. Come on, we need some points.
Definitely. Fingers crossed.